How you doing, everybody? My name is Octavius LaVon Blount. I'm the coordinator for the Mayor's Office of Black Male Engagement. We're here with another Spotlight series, but today we have a special Spotlight today. We're kind of collaborating with Women's History Month to celebrate women, black women specifically, that are doing great work in the city of Philadelphia. And today we have a heavy hitter today. I'm a little nervous, but we're going to get through this. We're going to talk a little bit about what she does. How does she impact black women in the city of Philadelphia? And also, what advice can she give black women and maybe black boys on how to support one another and also support the work that they're trying to get done in this city? So Amber, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing well. I'm so honored to be here with you. Anytime I get to spend time with you is good time. It's well spent time.
Thank you. So I know you have this big hat in this city, but if you take that hat off, what kind of person would people say you are? And also, if you can give me a little background of who you are as well.
Sure, absolutely. So we'll talk a little bit about what I do in the city in a bit. But before I came to the city, I was directing Upward Bound programs at the University of Pennsylvania and the Cal State University Long Beach. And so I spent almost 10 years really in education access for low-income young people. And so I say that not to necessarily just talk about professional capacities, but access to education and specifically social justice work around young people is incredibly important to me. It's always been important to me, and I think that's a really salient part of my identity and who I am. So if I took off this particular city hat, I think what would be under that is a social worker. I'm a social worker, and we share that in common. A social worker, an educator, an advocate for marginalized folks, and a person who truly loves Philadelphia and wants the people of this city to be their best selves and to see themselves reflected on kind of all aspects of the city. So, yeah, that's who I am.
Okay. So I know you said you're a social worker.
That's right.
We have that connection. If you don't mind me asking, your trajectory as far as school. I know you went to Penn. Was that for master's or was that for bachelor's?
that was MSW at Penn, and then before that I was at the University of Delaware, and I did an English and Psych degree down there. But I'm in Atlanta, and I'm from Atlanta, so I came up here for school.
Okay.
Yeah, I rep the A. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I know you do a lot of work in this city. Now I'm going to ask you to put that hat on that you do wear. If you could tell me a little bit about what you do for the young women that may be watching and also the young men that may be watching.
Absolutely. So my official title is that I'm the Executive Director of the Mayor's Office of LGBT Affairs for the City of Philadelphia. And so we advocate for the rights and the equal protections of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex folks in our communities. And we are one of only 4 similar offices in the entire country, which is something that we're really proud of. Obviously, we want there to be more offices that are doing this work around the country and around the world, but we're really proud of the work that we're doing here in Philadelphia. The other offices are Santa Clara County, California, Washington, D.C., and Union County, New Jersey. There are other cities that have an LGBT liaison, cities that you would think about, like San Francisco or LA, Atlanta. Sometimes people are like Miami or Austin. Yeah, those places have like a person that's doing some LGBT work. But what's different about our office is that we are a permanent part of city government, which you all are aware of as well. And we will always be here to be able to advocate for LGBT folks. If you have like a liaison or a commission, those can be devolved. They they can be eliminated at a time. But this office is now part of the city charter, which is really important. I think what's also significant about our office is that we don't just do policy work. Usually you see these offices in city government and they do policy work, but we are really focused on community engagement and education and capacity building and advocacy for our communities. And so we go beyond policy, and in all of that work, we are bringing in other voices into the conversation. We never want to be serving people without having their input about what they want, right? And I know that you all use that framework in your work at Black Male Engagement as well. So that's a little bit about like that's the overview about what we do. We can get into the brass tacks about what that looks like on an everyday basis. But yeah, that's like quick kind of
That's
elevator pitch.
in a nutshell of your office.
Right.
So with I've seen on the news a lot of this trajectory of black women in leadership, power. How do you think that ignites your work? Does that ignite to say, oh, I just want to go right for it, or does it just say, I know I'm doing this work. I'm doing this work because I see what's going on in the news and in the media.
So I will say that it's kind of a layered experience.
Okay.
So when I'm seeing this incredible trajectory of black women, of women of color, of people of color who specifically from our position in politics and in government, who are really taking the reins, representing our communities in really unprecedented ways, I think you'd be hard pressed not to be inspired. So I'm certainly inspired by it. I'm encouraged by it. I think the other side of that coin is that if I'm being transparent, I'm nervous. I'm protective. I think specifically when we're talking about black women, there's a microscope that we are placed under. And you and I kind of talk about how black women move through space. You're like an incredible ally to women in general, but certainly to black women. And you know well that black women are just held to this unreasonable and frankly sometimes impossible standard. And so while I am inspired and encouraged by seeing us in so many different leadership positions, I'm also really protective of my sisters, and I'm very I'm concerned at times because I feel like we hold black women to account in a way that we don't with other populations and other communities. And I also know, being a black woman, being deeply connected with black women, that we will shoulder some very heavy burdens, even when frankly the odds are completely stacked against us. And so that it creates a very complicated dynamic where the world is throwing its burdens on you and black women are saying, all right, pile it on, we're going to keep going. So I'm as a social worker, I'm deeply concerned about our mental health and our physical health and how those things intersect as we move through space. So it's layered and complicated.
I hear you.
I know you do. I know you do.
With that whole support piece, I'm going to ask if you can give, it's like a two-part question. If you can give some advice to young women as far as being a woman of color, just how to navigate this world that we live in now, and also to young men, how we can support our black women and also the LGBT community.
Okay. Oh, that was such a, you said it was a two-part, but that's like a five-part.
I mean,
we're getting deep this morning. Yes. So the black women piece, I'm going to give a little bit of context before. So I said before that my work before I got to city government was with young people. It was specifically with low income, first generation to college young people in West Philadelphia, and I give that context. I say the vast majority of my population over the 7-8 years that I was doing that work was kids of color. They were frankly black kids. I would say in the hundreds of young people that I served during that time, I maybe had 5 kids that were not black kids. And a great number of those young people were women. And so I emphasize the importance in terms of advice that I can give folks, especially during this time and this climate, is around mental health. And I know some of us are talking about this work, but not enough of us are talking about this work. What I see and am encouraged by seeing young people of all backgrounds and identities being really excited about getting involved. They see these representations that we've been saying on a city level, on a local level, on a national level, on a state level, and they're like, oh, I can see myself, and we know the representation matters, right? And they're like, I want to do that work. And at the same time that I encourage them to do that work, because we need more people that look like us doing it, we have got to take care of ourselves, especially when we're talking about public service, especially when we're talking about being in the spotlight. So my advice for young people in whatever work they're looking at moving forward is to be mindful of taking care of themselves as they, as they go on in their education, as they go on in their careers, even in their personal lives. What does RuPaul say? If you if you don't love yourself, how the hell are you gonna
How you
love,
gonna
take
love
love
Yeah.
somebody else? And I would even extend that to like if you don't take care of yourself, how the heck are you gonna take care of someone else?
Yeah.
So I would encourage young people and young women especially to be taking care of themselves and always be interrogating and considering how they're doing that and how better they can do that, because it changes as you get older or as your professional life requires something different of you. So be mindful of your mental health, your physical health as well. I said before, I love Black women deeply, and I came from like all the matriarchs in my family, the folks that raised me, and I know we've talked about this as well. But I had a period when I was between being 23 and 25 when 6 very important Black women in my family died.
Yeah.
Like boom, boom, boom. And so my mother, my grandmother, my godmother, my aunt, my very best friend committed suicide. She committed suicide. Other folks died with different complications, health complications, frankly. And that's a kind of trauma that you don't really, it's very
Know about,
difficult to move on, and nobody can prepare you for that kind of trauma. I give that context to say the vast majority of those women died because of complications due to their health, things that were preventable, that could have been detected, and frankly, we see this so often with Black women. So yeah, talks about the mental health, and then there's a physical health component. We have got to do a better job of taking care of ourselves. Yeah, think about when you're on an airplane and they say put your mask on first, right? And then put on, so Black women, put your mask on first. And then take care of the world as we always do.
As you're doing right now.
Yeah, thank you. Second part is about young Black men. So there's so much, and specifically if we're talking about young Black men in Philadelphia, I try to remove myself and leave space for folks who identify with those communities to be able to guide those communities. So I will say that, like, recognizing that since I'm not a Black man, there is not a ton of advice that I am qualified to give. I'll say that. But what I would love to encourage Black men to do, young Black men, especially folks who are interested in being allies to different communities, to women, to LGBT folks, to whomever, is that especially in this time, in this climate, really start doing some internal work on how you can show up for other communities. And I know that Black men are shouldering a tremendous burden, especially in this city.
Yes.
We're looking at gun violence, we're looking at poverty, we're looking at disparate impacts on that community specifically. Looking at unemployment and underemployment. So I know that Black men have very specific challenges to that community. What I want to challenge Black men to do is find out how we can be allies to one another, because so many of our concerns, especially when we're talking about poverty and disparate economic impacts, so many of those concerns are intersecting. And we can, frankly, it's just better, it's more strategic, it's smarter, it's more efficient for us to be working together to be able to uplift each other and pull each other up together. So I want Black men to know they're not alone. I want them to know that that women and LGBTQ folks and elders, and, whomever, we are allies together in this work. And so look for your allies, but also do that internal work about how you can be allies to other communities.
Okay.
All right.
I want to say thank you for actually making time to sit down and talk with me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also providing myself, Black men, on how to support and be allies to other communities.
Absolutely.
And also that space to say, not doing different things, doing similar things and just doing it differently, but picking up each other, holding each other's hands, and walking across the bridge or walking through the fire to say, look, we can do this together and not by ourselves. So I want to thank you for actually supporting me in my growth process, and also supporting the communities that you're in and their growth processes as well. So
thank you so much, Octavius. It's a pleasure, and I'm just so proud of all the work that you do. I'm very honored to be working with you every day. Absolutely.
If you want to check us out at the next Spotlight series, we're on YouTube. We're also on Facebook and Instagram at OBMEPHL. Check us out next month.
you.